You're watching City Channel 4, your window to our community.
Thanks as always to Bob Miklo, Senior Planner for our city. Bob is a committed, hardworking, insightful public servant. He understands the absolute value and the endless opportunities of historic preservation and how preservation can best intersect with this town's many interests. Thanks also to Martina Wolf, our city intern, and to our sponsors tonight, Midwest One Bank, Iowa City Window and Door, and New Pioneer Co-op. But most of all, I thank the people whom we are recognizing tonight, you property owners, builders, painters, suppliers, contractors, designers, community and government groups. You are in the 34th batch of citizens publicly recognized over the decades at this ceremony for your work on projects both large and small. Imagine for an instant this town without its historic residential houses and neighborhoods like those in Longfellow, the North Side, Manville Heights, to name a few. Imagine this town without its historic church buildings, without its historic storefronts, without its historic campus, without its historic sororities and fraternities, without its historic parks and streetscapes. Our town today is the sum total of individual choices and efforts like those choices and efforts you have made over the last year on individual buildings, on individual streets. Choices that have created a community that understands that past, present, and future can be good neighbors. Thank you to all of you for the work you have done for this community. Now I'd like to turn the program over to Alicia Trimble, the Executive Director of Friends of Historic Preservation, with my sincere thanks for the hard work that Friends does every year.
Thank you, everyone. As Jenna-Lee said, my name is Alicia Trimble, and I currently serve as the Executive Director of Friends of Historic Preservation. Friends of Historic Preservation, a nonprofit originally founded as Friends of Old Brick in 1975 with the original mission to save one building, has had quite the mind-blowing year. I get a little dizzy actually thinking about it. In fact, when I went to order this, I wasn't even sure what to put down first in my comments tonight. So I'm gonna start with the normal stuff we kind of do every year and then just move straight on to crazy. So the normal stuff, we continued our outreach and education, hosting a number of workshops in the winter and spring of 2006. We held our third annual Craft Your Environment Craft Fair, where all vendors at the craft fair must incorporate recycled materials into their products. We held our annual Parade of Historic Homes at the end of May in the neighborhoods around Kirkwood Avenue and Summit Street. And we did this right after we moved a house, which I'll get to when I get into crazy. After that move, thanks to a grant from the Community Foundation of Johnson County, we began a series of hands-on workshops at the house that give individuals the opportunity to learn that almost anyone can maintain their own historic home, and that those options are just as, if not more energy efficient and a whole lot more cost effective than the replacement disposable pieces that are sold today. We have a one-day intensive window workshop coming up here in a little over a week on the 28th. That will be followed by an interior painting workshop on February 11th, which will not only teach you how to get a professional paint job in your home, but will also teach things like plaster repair and how to paint a stairwell, because I think most of us have wondered how to do that without dying. And February 25th, we will be teaching a passive floor restoration class, which will teach people how to refinish their floors without sanding them, because as most of you probably know, after about 3 sandings of your floor, there's no more floor left. As many of you also know, Friends has operated the Salvage Barn and Architectural Salvage Warehouse since the early 1990s. Well, I'm proud to announce the Salvage Barn has finally grown up. Starting just recently for the first time in 40 years, or excuse me, first time in nearly 25 years, the Salvage Barn is open 40 hours a week, Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 5 a.m. At the Salvage Barn, our staff and volunteers architecturally deconstruct buildings that are not saved and take the pieces back to the Salvage Barn for resale to the public. This year, the Salvage Barn has conducted a record number of salvages. We've begun partnerships with the Preservation Station in Burlington and the historic Mill Seed Building in Washington, Iowa. This means we're bursting at the seams with material. It also means we're even serving as a better resource for those individuals who need to find the right piece for their house, building, or their craft project, if that be the case. All proceeds of the sales from the material go to fund FHP's, Friends' dedication to advocacy for neighborhoods and communities, support our sustainable environment efforts, and support real education. We never try to sell you something. We actually prefer you fix it and do it the right way. In the last couple of decades, the Salvage Barn has diverted hundreds of tons of material from the Iowa City landfill. So, a full-time Salvage Barn also means we now have a full-time tool lending library at the Salvage Barn. Friends hosts Iowa City's only tool lending library at the Salvage Barn. We opened it in 2003, and members can check out tools from the library. We had a grant from the Community Foundation of Johnson County last year, actually in 2015, which allowed us to more than double the size of the tool lending library at the beginning of 2016. And we have a whole bunch more tools coming in thanks to the window restoration workshop we're doing, as well as a new hammer drill and another Orbodo sander, because those are our next requested items. Moving on to crazy. If that's not enough for the Salvage Barn, we're opening a second Salvage Barn and tool lending library we're calling the Annex at the historic Mill Seed Company building in Washington, Iowa. The Salvage Barn and Tool Lending Library at first will be open by an appointment, and this is also made possible through a partnership with Mill Seed, Main Street, Washington, and a grant from the Washington County Riverboat Foundation. And then in May, we picked up a house and moved to 4 blocks. It's a really big house, too. The Hauser-Metzger House is a National Register eligible house formerly located on Iowa Avenue that was scheduled for demolition. A couple blocks away as a crow flies, it's 4 blocks to drive, but a couple blocks away as a crow flies, unfortunately a house on College Street was struck by lightning and eventually had to be razed. After we desperately searched in the short term for some developers who were willing to help take on the house move and could not find any, the FHP board and staff decided we can do this in 2 months. And this eventually led to the smashing presentation Jessica Bristow and I give called How to Move Your House at the Last Moment. Between February 12th, when the board voted to move forward with the house move, and when the house moved on May 4th, we received approval of the Historic Preservation Commission. The original house on College Street was razed. FHP closed on the property. The utilities were arranged to lift and drop power cable and internet lines the day of the move, and a minor modification was received. We asked the city to flatten the median on Washington Street. We found a foundation contractor last minute when the university was in the middle of a huge building boom, and they still are. We had to have trees cut along the route. And UAY, the wonderful not-for-profit that used to be housed in the house on Iowa, couldn't move out until April 26th, and the house movers were coming on April 28th. So in those 2 days, we demoed a chimney and removed 2 porches. We also had to have the utilities disconnected during those 2 days. While the movers were preparing, our salvage crews salvaged a building next door that we could not be saved. And on May 4th, the house was moved. And since that time, we have been in the process of rehabilitating the house, and we'll put it on the market later this spring with a covenant on the property saying it must stay owner-occupied for a certain amount of time. And I think that's all I probably have time for this night. It's been a really incredible year. I'd really like to thank our board of directors, all the sponsors we had all year long, as well as our membership. It's just been incredible. And I hope you all enjoy the awards tonight, and congratulations to you all. And next I would like to introduce Kevin Boyd with the Iowa City Historic Preservation Commission, who will present residential paint and exterior finishes.
Thanks. So good evening. On to the awards, the fun stuff too, right? That's why many of you are here. After we present the individual properties that are being recognized, we'd ask each owner, as well as any consultants, contractors, carpenters, designers, painters, masons, material suppliers, basically anyone who's being awarded, come to the table at the front of the room over with Alicia and Jessica and get your awards. So with that, we'll start. 725 Clark Street. Our first residential paint and exterior finish award goes to Cynthia Schmidt, the owner of this house on 725 Clark Street. It had been painted all one flat beige color. As you can see in the photos, the new 3-color scheme really highlights the detail work of this 1910 home. Painter Wayne Nugel with Classic Painting mentioned several neighbors stopping by to check out the house as he worked. Everyone appreciated the change and took the opportunity to offer their opinion on the colors. The neighbors on Clark Street were treated to 2 award winners this year, just 1 block apart. It's really amazing what a couple houses with fresh paint can do for a neighborhood. Congratulations, Cynthia Schmidt and Wayne Nugel.
One lady walking by said, "There are too many green houses in the neighborhood."
823 Clark Street. This is the one just kind of down the block. The owners of this beautiful turn-of-the-century home is Mary Impaglia Margolin. Mary did significant planning for the painting process. She drew elevations on graph paper and made copies to use as coloring sheets, trying different combinations with colored pencils. She then tried different samples on hidden areas of the porch and garage and asked friends and neighbors for their thoughts before selecting a color combination seen here. The work was done in 2 stages to spread the cost over multiple years. The sides that were more visible to the public were done first, followed by the less public sides in 2016. She plans on doing a few finishing touches in the garage this year. The carpentry was done by Andy Bristow and the paint by Brent Sampson, who, according to Mary, was very flexible with her schedule and her own painting contributions. Congratulations to Mary Impaglia Margolin, Andy Bristow, and Brent Sampson. Yep, yeah. (1101) Kirkwood Avenue. This is the former home of Iowa's pioneer statesman Samuel Kirkwood. Kirkwood served as Iowa's Civil War governor and later in the U.S. Senate. This home was built in 1867, the year Kirkwood ended his first term in the U.S. Senate. He would go on to serve another term as governor and another term in the U.S. Senate while calling this house home. The owner, Gene James, and family are only the 3rd family to own this home, including the Kirkwood family. They purchased it in 1968, a century after it was built. Samuel James did the work, painstakingly prepping and painting this large house. The new 4-color paint scheme highlights the details of this Iowa City treasure. Congratulations to the James family. (831) Market Street. Tim and Deb Lehman purchased this house in 2015 as a rental property. They loved the look of the house, but felt it would be more attractive with the new paint scheme. They drove around the historic Iowa City neighborhoods and decided on this combination, the one that we saw earlier, we'll get back to it, combination of colors based on the homes they liked. Their painter, Fred Mischler, didn't initially care for the colors, but they grew on him as he got into the project. He's a one-man crew who scraped, repaired damaged wood, primed, and painted the home. As part of this project, they also replaced the roof and refinished the floors. Congratulations, Tim and Deb Lehman and Fred Mischler. (310) Reno Street. Owner Regina Bailey wanted to bring out the charm of this cottage bungalow, which is similar to the Rosetta model sold by Sears Homes in the 1920s. After talking to several people about their experiences of painting their homes, she determined, since the house was just 1 story, that she could paint the siding, window trim, and the porch herself. She hired Toomey Construction and Guide Rollinger Painting to wash and paint the soffits and frieze boards. After Drollinger and Toomey completed their work, Regina started hers, one side of the house at a time, over 3.5 months. The result is beautiful. Congratulations, Regina Bailey, Tim Toomey, and Guy Drollinger. (815) Ronald Street. Ronald Street is the other location of our second pair of neighboring award winners. At 815 Ronald Street, owner Daniel Kinney began the exterior restoration of this vernacular college in July 2013 and rebuilt the front and back porch railings. In September 2015, Daniel and his wife, Pooja Burla, hired Ishmael Oroko of Oroko Construction to replace the roof. This past June, contractor Yale Cohn and Daniel stripped and repainted the exterior of the house. During the work, detailed attention was paid to sanding and or replacing weathering or rotting wood. The existing paint was stripped and a coat of oil-based primer was applied for longevity. To finish, 2 coats of exterior enamel were applied to the trim and siding. Congratulations, Daniel Kinney, Pooja Burla, and Yale Cohn. And this is just next door, 823 Ronald Street, was built around 1900, but the original cedar siding was covered at some point by aluminum siding. The owners, Brian Gottswalds and Melissa Morton, set out to return their home to its youthful appearance and former glory. When the aluminum siding was installed, all of the drip caps and bed molding trim around the windows were ripped off. Scores of holes had been punched through the original cedar siding so that insulation could be blown in. Brian and Melissa replaced 1/3 to 1/2 of the original cedar siding and had the drip caps and storm windows remade based on the original profiles and dimensions. All of the storm windows in the upper floors had to be replaced. The couple did much of the work themselves with the assistance from Warren Hanlon of Hanlon Custom Woodworking, who made all the replacement trim for the windows and fascia board. Also helping was Charlie Miller of Iowa City Window and Door, I don't think that's Charlie, who constructed new old-style wooden storm windows that matched the originals. Brian is an architect and Melissa is a historian, and they say there are many stories from this project. Looking forward to visiting with you guys afterwards to hear some of those. Because they had no way of knowing just kind of what they'd find under the asbestos siding, there wasn't a lot of planning, more just jump in and learn how to do it as you go, as they said. Congratulations to Brian and Melissa and to our contractors, Warren Hanlon of Hanlon Custom Woodworking and Iowa City Window and Door. (1011) Sheridan Avenue. This is a house story with a happy ending. Built in 1900 as a single-family residence from a simple Queen Anne style, this house was eventually converted into a triplex. The owners received a Historic Preservation Award in 1996 for extensive rehabilitation, which included a complete interior renovation and construction and reconstruction of the front porch. What you see in the photographs today is an appealing-looking home that has been brought back from the brink and that has been well-maintained. This fall, Mike Miller scraped and repainted the house in his characteristically meticulous manner. Congratulations, Jody Gunn and Mike Miller. (419) Summit Street. As referred to as the Donahue Swisher Woods House, 419 Summit Street is now the home of Natasha Durovikova and Garrett Stewart. The stately home, built in 83 is distinctive for the curved beard arch located at the top of the home's gable and for the lacy woodwork pattern located above each arch. The feature has been called the Swiss style. The round oculus window under the arch further animates the facade. The recent 5-color paint job is also executed by the amazing Mike Miller, further accentuates the architectural details of this house. And finally, the removal of the shrubbery planted at the base of the front porch reveals the fancy cutwork that's visible in the earliest photos of the house. Congratulations, Natasha Durovikova and Garrett Stewart. I'm sorry, 726 North Van Buren Street. Nick and Brittany Miller purchased this turn-of-the-century home in April 2015. Repainting their new home was high on their priority list because of peeling paint that tested positive for lead. Wayne Nugel and Classic Painting removed the paint over late winter and early spring, and by April 2016, a year after they purchased the home, they were ready for the paint. They wanted to make sure the home fit the character of historic Northside neighborhood, and after much deliberation, they chose Victorian lavender, and Wayne Nugel with Classic Painting helped them pick complementary colors. They're very happy with the results and feel the lavender adds some character that reminds them of their home in New Orleans, and as they said, without going over the top. Congratulations to Nick and Brittany Miller and Wayne Nugel. Congratulations to all our winners in the category of paint and exterior finishes. And I'm going to introduce Esther Baker, who is also one of my fellow commissioners on the Iowa City Historic Preservation Commission for the category of rehabilitation. Thanks, Esther.
So we're going to start with 1025 Burlington Street, our first winner. 1025 Burlington had obviously suffered through past remodeling. Iowa City's University Partnership purchased the property and poured much of their work into exterior rehabilitation. Randy Wessling took on the project as contractor and led the successful rehabilitation. All the original windows had been infilled with plywood and much smaller casement windows. During the rehab, these windows were opened up and replaced with sash packs to fit the original frames. Siding, trim, and soffits were replaced or repaired, and the entire exterior was painted a brighter, more appropriate color scheme by D.W. Hayden Painting. The front porch, which had previously been enclosed and paneled with knotty pine, was reopened, exposing original columns, siding, rail, and floor. Inside, the painted paneling and suspended ceiling were removed. And the rehabilitation of 1025 Burlington returned much of the historic character to this house in the College Hill Conservation District. Congratulations to the City of Iowa City's University Partnership, D.W. Hayden Painting, and Randy Wessling. Next, we have 716 North Dubuque Street. After purchasing the newly designated local landmark at 716 North Dubuque Street, KMB Management began the huge undertaking of completing rehabilitation of the property. Work began with re-roofing the house using a new product approved specifically for this project, Brava Roof Tile. These tiles allow the property to regain the appearance of slate, which is so often found on masonry Tudor Revival buildings. The asphalt shingles siding the dormers were replaced with a Tudor-style stucco and board pattern. Inappropriate white vinyl windows were replaced with more historically appropriate windows and dark brown sashes. Deteriorated trim was repaired or replaced and painted to work with the dark Tudor-style paint scheme. The front door was also rebuilt to match the original. Extensive masonry repair was necessary on this project. TNT tuck pointing followed the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation when undertaking this portion of the rehabilitation. Large cracks and settlements in the main structure were repaired and tuck pointed. The top of the chimney and front landing wall were rebuilt. The stone arch to the patio was repaired. A stone wall between the patio and the alley was rebuilt using historic photographic evidence. KMB Management also undertook an extensive interior remodel so that the house could return to its original use as a fraternity. KMB Management has restored the historic character of 716 North Dubuque as an example of Iowa City's early 20th century expansion of Greek houses. Congratulations to KMB Management, TNT Tuck Pointing, and Adam and Andy Ahrens of Brava Roof Tile. 711 North Gilbert Street is next. Owners Ted and Jen Knights purchased this 1928 American four-square in March 2015 with the aim of restoring the home to its original beauty so it fit in with the lovely historic homes around it. The house had been clad in steel siding for decades. After talking with their neighbors, Ted and Jen guessed that the siding had been installed sometime in the 1970s. Their first step was to remove all of the metal siding to reveal the original wood clapboard siding underneath. Afterward, they were happy to discover the original siding was actually in decent shape, but the trim had been destroyed by the installation of steel siding. The trim, drip cap, water table, and bed molding on each of the windows and doors were gone, as was the drip sill at the base of the house. The window sills had been cut off on both sides to allow flush installation of the steel siding up to the window frames. They had all of the replacement trim fabricated from wood by Hanlon Custom Woodworking and installed it themselves. With help from Jen's uncle, they created matching pieces using old-growth fir from Hill Hardwoods to replace the ends of the window sills. An original 9-light attic dormer window was severely deteriorated. Rather than replacing it with a new window, the Knights removed it, replaced wood pieces that were rotting, replaced broken panes of glass, reglazed, and repainted the window before reinstalling it. Both the front door and side door were also replaced. On the front, they installed a Craftsman-style door with 6 lights, mimicking the look of the dormer up above, as well as a dentel shelf for aesthetic and historic appeal. The new side door on the alley is similar in style, but plainer. Finally, they hired Carl Sternberg of Cobalt Painting to paint the entire exterior in dark blue with crisp white trim, perfectly showcasing the newly restored character of the home. Congratulations to Ted and Jen Knights and Carl Sternberg of Cobalt Painting and Warren Hanlon of Hanlon Custom Woodworking. .610 Ronald Street. 2 years ago, 610 Ronalds was in danger of coming down, known as the Cat House, because of a very specific odor from when it served as a cat sanctuary. This property was spared from demolition but needed an owner to lavish time, money, and care on a thorough rehabilitation. Luckily, Ann Burnside and Linda McGuire were very nearby and came to the rescue. Over more than a year, Ann and Linda planned and executed a rehabilitation that included an extensive project cast. The primary modification of the exterior of the house was removing a flat-roofed kitchen and adding a pitched gabled kitchen in its place. Architect John Shaw designed this modification. Beth Rapson of Regarding Home and Miller Construction of Kelowna, Iowa, tweaked the design to make it work with the existing structure. Tom Knopf rebuilt the front porch, restoring the original design shown in photos they received from families who lived in the house after World War II. He also rebuilt all the interior trim, matching the style of the original woodwork and trim. The bulk of the work involved gutting the interior of the house and rebuilding it. Ann and Linda's goals were to create an accessible home which retained historic features, was energy efficient, and continued to contribute to the character of the North Side neighborhood. For the initial demolition and structural restoration, they tipped their hats to Paul Kinney. Paul led a team comprised of North Side neighbors and family through the initial gutting of the house, and then worked to restore the house to a structurally sound condition. In this process, he taught them a great deal about the value of original materials, and at every juncture opted to use salvaged or restored historic members. Once the framework was restored, Beth Rapson took on the role of project manager, helping connect Ann and Linda with Miller Construction of Kelowna to design and install the gabled doghouse rear entryway, repair the siding, install the skylight, and build the deck. Ann and Linda commented, "We were fortunate to work with a small army of skilled and patient tradespeople who accepted our desire to build a modern Northside neighborhood dwelling inside an historic Northside neighborhood shell, and who went out of their way to find solutions to the myriad challenges of the project." Congratulations to Ann Burnside and Linda McGuire, Paul Kinney, Beth Rapson, and Miller Builders, as well as everyone else who had a hand in this neighborhood effort.
We have some of the original people who lived in the house in the 40s here, too.
Oh, we have some of the original people who lived in the house.
Yes, from 1946 to 1964. All the publicity we were able to meet some generations of the people who lived here.
Very exciting. Thank you for coming here. And finally, here's our final Rehabilitation Award winner, 304 South Summit. It sat for years on a prominent Iowa City corner, hiding behind overgrown trees and beneath peeling paint. New owners Kevin and Patricia Hannock began the rehabilitation project by clearing the brush and consulting with city historic preservationists. They performed extensive research on the history of the property and began their project with material selection and budgeting as their main drivers. Pat Barton of Corridor Construction led the rehabilitation contracting. Kevin noted that it was important to him to utilize recycled materials and obtain specific salvaged items from Burlington, Iowa's Restoration Center. He also donated salvaged sinks and materials. During this rehabilitation, the metal fire escapes were removed from the front of the house, and original windows on the main portion of the house were repaired instead of replaced. The interior finishes were updated or repaired and refinished. Structural issues were fixed. The most eye-catching portion of the rehabilitation was the repainting of the exterior in red to match the original brick. Finally, this prominent Iowa City property, known as the Levi Kaufman House, regained its impressive historical presence. Congratulations to Kevin and Patricia Hannock and Pat Barton of Corridor Construction. Congratulations to all of our winners in the rehabilitation category, and now it's my sincere pleasure to introduce Kate Corcoran, a member of the Board of Friends of Historic Preservation.
Good evening. Our first winner in the additions and new construction is a property at 618 Davenport Street. It's known as the Joseph Koza House because of its association with the successful commercial career of the Bohemian civic leader, Joseph Koza. This is a two-story dwelling that has a cross-gable roof plan and a modern story gable wing on the east side that was added around 1985. It's an elaborate example of the Italianate style, and when it was built, its scale and construction were uncommon in this section of Iowa City. Since 1897, the dwelling has served as the rectory of St. Wenceslaus Catholic Church. Last summer, after receiving approval from the Iowa City Historic Preservation Commission, the church added a screen porch addition on the northeast side of the property. The porch was an extension of a back porch that had earlier been covered. The addition extends 10 feet beyond the current east wall. A new hip roof was added to the current shed roof to divert rainfall away from the house. So that it would complement the rectory, the new porch was painted white to match the trim of the property's existing rear porch and trim. The new addition ties with the original house and complements the architecture in a way that the original addition could not. Congratulations to St. Wenceslaus Catholic Church. Our next award winner is 608 Grant Street. This project is an example of an addition tying into the previous addition and complementing the original architecture. Owners Jay Geisen and Andrea Heffernan built a screen porch addition, expanding an already existing small deck out the back doors of their kitchen. They chose Marty McCafferty of Mack & Sons as their contractor. The flooring they chose is a tropical hardwood, Kumaru, that can withstand inclement weather conditions in all seasons in Iowa. The walls were constructed with 4x4 cedar posts. 2 walls are fully screened, and the third is partially screened. The fourth wall is the rear side of the home. For the ceiling, beadboard was nailed upside down on Douglas fir joists, so it's visible above the joists. Porch skirting was stained to match the finish of the cedar shake shingles on the back of the house and used 2 board sizes with 3-inch spacing between. Black aluminum guard and handrails were installed. Some were reused from the existing deck structure on the steps. The black aluminum has the appearance of wrought iron. Cedar boards were used for the exterior framing and painted to match the cedar shingles and porch skirting. A wooden screen door was added to the east side, and gutters and downspouts that match those already on the home were added. Congratulations to Jay Geisen and Andrea Heffernan and contractor Marty McCafferty of Mack & Son. Congratulations to our winners in the additions and new construction. And now we have our stewardship category. And this year's winner is 910 Webster Street. Sometimes an owner thoughtfully cares for their historic home over the years beyond the sight of many of our local preservationists and outside of any of our historic or conservation districts. This was the case with this year's Stewardship Award winner and its owners, Gary Jondal and his late wife, Carol Jondal, who we recognize tonight for their years of loving and faithful maintenance and rehabilitation that they have lavished on their home at 910 Webster Street. Built around 1900, in the lot on North Dubuque Street that became the parking lot for the Emma Goldman Clinic, this house was moved to Webster Street in 1978 by longtime Iowa City mover Max Yoakum. We all remember him. As Gary's daughter Kate recalled, the foundation for the house wasn't finished yet, so the house was moved as far off the street as possible, but it was still partially covering the sidewalk, part of the front yard, and a favorite lilac bush of her mother's. The house sat there for about a week while the foundation cured before it could be moved into place. The home's interiors still has its plaster walls and original kitchen cupboards. The entry between the dining room and living room has a beautiful built-in bookcase on either side. The bathroom has all of its original fixtures too, including a clawfoot tub. After choosing Ron Jones as their contractor, the Jondals had all of the pine floors and the interior trim refinished. The house was completely rewired and the plumbing was updated. The roof was reshingled. The small attached garage in the back was converted to a bedroom. Consistently painted white over and over again, the exterior of the home was recently repainted with historically appropriate colors chosen by Carol. This new paint scheme highlights the craftsman details on the home. Congratulations to owners Gary and Carol Jondal. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Price. She's the chair of the Johnson County Historic Preservation Commission, and she will hand out our final award. Thank you.
The Roland and Marilyn Weiner House on Highway 1 Northeast is, as its National Register nomination states, a master's work reflecting the deep influence of Frank Lloyd Wright at mid-century and the distinctive characteristics of a Usonian residence. Designed by and for the architect Roland Weiner in 1958, the house was constructed in 1959 of Anamosa Stone City limestone, California redwood, and glass. A bedroom wing was added in 1964. Roland Weiner graduated with a Bachelor of Architecture degree from Iowa State College in 1954. After marrying Marilyn Ruth Duke in 1956 in Burlington, Iowa, the Weiners moved to Iowa City, where Roland started working for architect Henry L. Fisk. 2 years later, Roland passed his Iowa State Board architectural exam. The Weiner residence would become the first set of construction drawings to bear Roland's name as a registered architect. Plans for Weiner House began in 1957, when the Weiners purchased 2.33 acres of an appealing wooded hillside along Highway 261, now Highway 1, about 5 miles northeast of Iowa City. The following spring, the couple moved their mobile home to the site. After living there a year and observing the environment for over 4 seasons, they began in 1958 planning a house with the following design objectives. All major windows should face south and east to take advantage of the best views, morning light, and maximize privacy by facing away from the highway traffic. Generous amounts of glass to allow the outside in. Use of natural stone and wood to establish character and to minimize maintenance. Conform to and take advantage of the slope of the site. Incorporate Frank Lloyd Wright's philosophy and design principles of modular, affordable, and organic design. Consider building the house in phases. After initial design concepts were explored, Roland Weiner decided a structure with 3 wings at each at a different level would take best advantage of the slope of the site. Working over top an equilateral triangle module, the stairway was broken into 3 flights of 5 risers each, wrapped around 1 triangular module. This produced a pinwheel stairway with landings at 4 levels, and at the carport level, a front entry and related facilities would be provided. Construction of Phase 1 of the house began in May 1959 and was substantially complete by year's end. General contractor Bill Lee returned in March 1960 to install redwood siding. Phase 2 construction, consisting of the bedroom wing, began in November 1964 and continued throughout 1965. There's the pinwheel stairway. Throughout its 57 years of existence, Weiner House has remained largely unchanged. All repairs and maintenance have carefully respected the original design and construction. At the exterior, the original California redwood siding, fascia, and balcony railings remain as naturally weathered. The Anamosa Stone City limestone walls and Pella casement windows are intact. Most interior finishes are also original, including the kitchen cabinet work and Formica countertops, mahogany doors and trim, oak plank pinwheel stairway, and hexagon-shaped solid vinyl floor tile. The Bermuda-style turned metal roof over the living room is sound, having been painted numerous times. After the house reached 50 years of age, the Wainers began to explore the possibility of nominating the house for the National Register of Historic Places. Jan Foll of Tallgrass Historians prepared the nomination, and the house was listed in the National Register on September 9th, 2013. The Johnson County Historic Preservation Commission is pleased to present this award to Roland and Marilyn Wainer for the design and careful stewardship of their residence, an outstanding example of Wrightian architecture in Johnson County.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. As you can see, we had some fantastic projects this year. I'd like to again thank our sponsors, Iowa City Window and Door, Midwest One Bank, and New Pioneer Co-op. Their support every year has just been remarkable for this event. And I'd like to congratulate all the winners again, and I hope you all enjoy your evening. Thank you very much for coming.
You're watching City Channel 4. On TV, online, on demand, on Facebook, and now on the go on your mobile device.